Uh, Greetings from Rotary Club of Silicon Andhra. Good afternoon, good evening, and good day from whichever place you are joining us today. Thank you so much for joining us and taking this opportunity. I would also welcome Dushan Naidu Garu, our vocational chair, who is arranging excellent webinar sessions for vocational vertical. And thank you so much, sir, for bringing to us wonderful programs. So it's all yours now.
Thank you. Hello all, welcome to each and every one of you. Welcome John, it's a pleasure meeting you and seeing you in person here. So John Rigler is an on-chain cryptocurrency maximalist and blockchain data scientist. He's a seasoned enterprise cloud security and blockchain expert too. So he invented fast or cheap Web 3.0 a cryptocurrency message system which can be censored. So I don't know much about it. So I would let John talk about it more. Without any further ado, today's topic is Web 3.0 and self-sovereign identity. John will enlighten us and educate us. It's a wonderful topic. And thank you very much, John. We requested you to postpone this session for a week, which was supposed to happen last week. You kindly accepted our request, and thanks for adjusting your schedule. Without any further ado, the floor is yours. Kindly introduce us a little more and then take us into the topic. Thank you.
Absolutely. So it's interesting, when I gave you the titles, the title that I have on my slides is a little bit different. However, in an hour we're gonna cover all that stuff anyway, right? But let me just before I start this slide, let me just hit on those things. So, web right now we are in our web experience is Web 2.0, which is you go to central websites like Google or Facebook or LinkedIn, and you are a participant in their website. With Web 3.0, we have the ability for everybody to connect to each other. So you can and have your own identity. That's the other part in that long string of stuff that it was self-sovereign identity. So you'll be able to better control your identity, and that includes money. This obviously I'm going to talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but it also is data. There's ways to use this, for example, with medical records. There's all sorts of possibilities. So now, having said that, let me kind of see if I can screen. Yeah, here we go. All right, and can everybody see?
Yeah, we can see.
You can see the screen. Okay, and feel free to stop me or interrupt if you have any questions. I have a tendency to go off on a tangent, and I don't want to do that. It's much better to have everybody kind of understand what I'm saying. So this is talking about cryptocurrency as blockchain, money, and data, right? So you're used to thinking about cryptocurrency as money, right? Everybody here's probably heard of Bitcoin, I'm sure, right? Does anybody have Bitcoin? Has anybody ever gotten any Bitcoin? No. Most people haven't. This is such a new thing. Most people don't have any experience with this. So I'm a blockchain cloud engineer, and I've worked in enterprise IT for probably 20 years now. I worked for IBM for 10 years, building their cloud services. And of course, the cloud is, where your website might be, right? If you you can build it out there, and so that's my contact information, and I'll make this available. That's my Venmo. This is sort of my job. So if anybody feels the need to, I accept tips, right? And then I'm going to talk about kind of three different parts. First is Bitcoin, and that is money, right? It's digital money. And then kind of the second thing that happened was a new version of Bitcoin arrived on the scene, which was called Ethereum. And that became more of a digital programming language. And so people could do all sorts of stuff. So if you've heard of decentralized finance or NFTs, you may have heard of some of these things. But the point, important point for me is that it's not just about money. It's about, the possibilities of sharing data and using the system is pretty important. So Bitcoin started in 2000, right after the crash, right after the financial crash of 2009, and the housing bubble crashed, and was it Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, all of that. I'm sure you guys remember that. I remember that. It changed the world, and somebody, we don't know exactly who this person was. They go by the name Satoshi Nakamoto, and they created this proposal for an electronic money system. Now, most of the money we use is electronic, right? Unless you're using cash for something, most people don't really use cash. You use credit cards, or a bank card that is kind of set up like a credit card, but it's a debit, right? But the bank, but there's some issues there. The bank has to take a cut. And it's just kind of older technology. It's not the newest thing, right? I know you guys probably know more than I do how difficult it is to send money from one country to another, right? And how expensive it is. Well, with cryptocurrencies, that's not an issue anymore. You're going to have the most difficulty going from dollars into some kind of currency, and then it's easy to transfer it, right? And then the other person, if it's a rupee or whatever, the other person has a way with their bank to transfer it out. And once you're in this system, it's very easy to deal with. So what, and we don't know if this is a man or a woman, but what Satoshi Nakamoto figured out was that you had to have a money system that didn't have a bank. And oh, by the way, so yeah, there's a reference right here to the bailout, which is stuck right in the middle of the code, kind of to mark it in time. And when they created this, they used this article. Can you guys hear okay? They used this article right here to kind of connect Bitcoin into the real world, and that's an issue that comes up again and again, right? How do you make this digital money system connect to the real world? And there's some challenges there. So this is from a site called CoinGecko, and just shows you the scale of what we're dealing with, right? So this is, and it shows you the price of Bitcoin. So for one Bitcoin, it's $34,000 to get one Bitcoin. Now you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. And if you think about it, if you compare it to like a dollar, you know, you have a dollar and then you have the decimal, and then you have 2 decimal points after it, right? Well, in cryptocurrency, you have 2 zeros after the decimal point. In cryptocurrency, you have 8, right? So you can buy like $10 worth of Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of these. These are the main cryptocurrencies that you see out there. And this is from Coinbase. Coinbase is a program. You can connect it to your bank. And so I see you nodding. Do you use Coinbase? Have you heard of it? Hello?
Yeah, I heard of it, but I use Robinhood for buying some Dogecoin, something.
Oh, you use Robinhood? So you're able to buy crypto using Robinhood though, right?
Yeah, Dogecoin.
Dogecoin, yeah. I like Dogecoin. Dogecoin is really, really interesting. And so now if you're using Robinhood or Coinbase or whatever, you don't really, it's sort of like having a Scottrade account, right? You don't really own that currency. Just like with Scottrade, you don't own that stock, but they're gonna, you know, their reputation is staked on you that being in your account and then you know dealing with you. So, but the difference here is you see here you have buy and sell, and then you also have send and receive. So you can send your Dogecoin, let's say, from Robinhood or from Coinbase to anybody's address, to any address out there. And here's the really interesting thing is, and this is really the genius of Bitcoin and all these other things, is nobody gives you that address. You create that address. You can create that yourself. You can have, like, for example, I have on my phone, I have applications where I can have hundreds of addresses for whatever currencies you want, right? So you could transfer the Dogecoin out of Robinhood to your phone. And of course, then it's up to you to keep track of it. And you usually do that with, you have an account, and it usually involves like writing down these 12 words, right? And so that becomes your key for the account. Anyway, it's kind of a digression. So so what I'm showing you here is called a block explorer. And it shows, and I grabbed this image today, right? So it shows the time and how often a new block is created. And this is Bitcoin. It's creating a new block about every 15 minutes. And you can even see that each transaction in there, right? There's 325 transactions in this block. You don't know who you don't know the names of the people who did that, but you can see them. You can see the transactions. And that's, again, if you don't have a bank, then the community can look at this stuff. The community can see all of this. And here I drill down to show you one. Somebody have a question? Is this completely confusing, or does this make any sense?
It does, John. Please continue. maybe we will ask questions at the end, or if anyone have, they will raise hand and they will ask.
Okay, okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. So this is a transaction, and this is Bitcoin. You see, and again, here's the 8 zeros, right? So this wasn't for a whole Bitcoin. This was for part of a Bitcoin. I'm not sure how much money that is, but here's the address. And each time you do a transaction, it creates a new address. You have this, you have a bunch of addresses, and the software keeps track of that for you. But you can do things like you can assign addresses to be different things. You could print off a QR code of one of these addresses and just hand it out to people. And if they had Bitcoin, they could send you some, right? Like if one thing I had to do is sort of have events, like have local events or events online where I teach people how to have, you know, put Dogecoin in your wallet, or if it's in Coinbase or Robinhood, that's okay. But how to basically kind of buy and sell things from each other, right? You can transfer the currency to each other. You don't have to have some person. You don't have to have, you know, you need like an account like Robinhood to get the currency. But after that, you know, you're free to trade however you see fit. So this went from here to this other account. And so that's what they sent. So they wanted to send 0.015 Bitcoin to another user. We don't know who that is. We don't know who this is. You do know that it starts with a 3, that it's a sort of an account where there's more than one key. So that's could be really interesting for a group where you can have, like for example, let's say the Rotary Club has a Bitcoin account. If you set it up the right way, the treasurer, the secretary, and the president, any of those people could get the money, which might be important if one of those people dies or loses their key or something. You know, more often than not, people lose cryptocurrency because they lose access to their. That happens far more than people being that somehow somebody's stealing this from you. What happens most of the time is you mess up, and it's happened to me a number of times. You mess up and you can't get to it because you've lost your key. So having more than one person able to do that, and you can see who did that transfer, right? So, and then this part here. So the transaction always has to be equal. So this is actually returning these two parts equal this, and it returns the money back to this user here. In fact, it looks like it's that same address, right? Okay, so now I'm kind of making a jump from Bitcoin to Ethereum, and so by the way, when I say Bitcoin, let me back up a little bit, right? This is just the first. These are just the most popular currencies out there. There's thousands of these. There are so many. In fact, you could make your own if you wanted to, right? It's possible. You could have your own currency. And of course, Dogecoin's on the list. Cardano, some of you guys may have heard about Cardano. There's one called Polkadot. So some of these are what you call generation 1 currencies. And then some of them are kind of built on top of Ethereum, because Ethereum really changed everything because it's more like a whole programming language, right? And that's where you probably heard of smart contracts. So that's That's where you start to get the smart contracts. Now, I believe you can make kind of smart contracts using the other currencies, and I have other kind of beliefs like that. That maybe you don't even need smart contracts as much as you think. But for now, that's the big thing with Ethereum. So in this one called Tether, it actually, if you'll notice, it's worth $1. Its price is $1. So Tether is sort of an Ethereum token, and they do things to make it always equal $1 so that it's stable. So if you if you have an investment, right, and that's what a big part of the you know, a lot of people that have Bitcoin are just seeing it as an investment vehicle, right? Which can be scary when the price goes down 50%. It's great when it goes up 50%, but it's scary when it comes down. But with something like Tether, you know, it's stable. Now,
John, we kind of lost your audio.
all right.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
yes, we could hear you now. Please.
Okay. So what was the last thing I said? I know I was talking about Tether. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, we did hear about Tether when you mentioned that they try to maintain the dollar value to 1.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then I'd said the problem is that if you were trying to, if you were concerned about inflation, then Tether would go up and down with the dollar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, these are all very, very new things. You know, if you, I'm not giving you financial advice, and I can't. I mean, I can tell you kind of how Tether works, but you know, invest in your own risk. You know, every day is kind of a new day with this stuff. We're learning a lot. You know, after 10, it's, you know, Bitcoin's only been around for 10 years, right? And so all this is happened very, very quickly. Okay, so I showed you the Explorer. I kind of drilled down. So okay, so this is OpenSea, and OpenSea is where you generally have these NFTs, and an NFT stands for non-fungible token. So the idea is that you can create like a piece of digital artwork, and just like artwork in the real world, you know, you can sell your digital artwork, and there's an exchange for it, right? So that's what OpenSea is. It's an exchange for digital artwork. So, and what I'm showing you here is, so this is a kind of a picture from my browser. What I'm showing you here is this thing is called MetaMask. In MetaMask, you set up MetaMask on your computer, and just like the application in the phone, it has your digital IDs. It has your passwords and all that stuff in it. So nobody at OpenSea can get your passwords, can steal your information. Only you have access to that. And nobody can keep you from creating an account. So you could create an account with Ethereum, just like Bitcoin or Dogecoin, and give it to somebody and they could send it to you. Now, Ethereum itself has had a lot of issues with the what they call the gas fees. And so that's the price you pay for a transaction. The price is really, really high with Ethereum and with Bitcoin. That's why these other currencies like Dogecoin are interesting, because they work generally the same way, but the fees are really, really low. There's one that I really like, which is called Digibyte. And I'll show you a little bit about that in a minute, but it's basically the same. And then in the Ethereum world, there's something that I've been looking at called Polygon, which again, the fees are so low, it's like less than a penny. It's less than like a hundredth or a thousandth of a penny. It's very low fees, which again, with Ethereum, the fees are so high that and that's part of the creator of Ethereum has come out and said, and I agree with this, that it has to do with decentralized finance, with all of these. There's some, when you deal with money and you're in a new sort of space, there's a lot of people that are trying to make a quick buck, and so they create smart contracts that basically what they do is you pay more. If you pay more, then it puts the price up. So it's a bit difficult to explain, but that's why Ethereum is so high. But there are alternatives, and many of them work with this same technology, like with this MetaMask. See, I'm not on the Ethereum network. I'm on a different one right now, right? And so that's what I'm showing you there. And then this is sort of my own site, some of the stuff that I've been experimenting with. And this gets back to the Web 3.0 stuff, where it's not just money, it's data, right? So and this uses the Digibyte, and as you see, you can read things, right? Like you can read that this is a YouTube video, and so what I do on this site is you can put information in and send it, and it will send a transaction. But instead of being a financial transaction, it's a data transaction. I like to think about it like you can write a check to somebody for $0 and 0 cents, and you can have a huge memo field on it, right? You can put all sorts of data into it, and this is important because when Bitcoin was created, you took the middleman out of the formula. You took the bank out, so people could deal with each other financially, in a whole new way that we've never seen before. Well, you can also do other things, like you could have a real world contract that you can kind of put on the chain, or you can we're just there's like social possibilities for social networks, or sharing all sorts of information that so here's, in fact, this sort of the same information you see here I'm showing you actually doesn't even really live just on my site. It's also, you can kind of see it from the outside. And then here I'm just showing you the way to do that is you can connect to it with your phone. If you have like $5 or $10 in Digibyte, you can snap this QR code and send it. Just like before I was saying, if you give somebody the QR code for your Dogecoin account, even if it's in Coinbase or whatever, you could put it on a flyer or whatever, and if somebody happens to have that currency, they can send it directly to you. I think that's, yeah. So that's the end of my slides, and then I can I can do a screen share again if somebody has, you know, specific questions or whatever, but
Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, I mean, we can have like any questions if anyone have. Otherwise, we can have anything interactive now. That's what John is trying
right,
to.
yeah,
John, a quick question. I mean, I know it's like a hell lot of a world when say cryptocurrency and it is new. When you said you create these addresses and you can send it to anyone, is there a way you can walk us through, like like a layman, right? Like how do you, where do you log in? How do you create an address? How do you send it to the other person? If you can share something live, or if you can just talk about it, it would be nice.
I can, absolutely. Yeah, I can do that. So yeah, let's see. Let me kind of get back in here, and
Maybe you can share your screen, John, again.
yeah, I will. Let me do that again. So, you know, and I prefer to actually just do screen shares and over. You can see sort of how messy my world is. All right, so we're in Coinbase now, right? So I'm in Coinbase, and I've never dealt with, let's say Polkadot, right? So somebody says, John, I want to send you Polkadot. All right. So you come here, and again, this is fairly standard, you know. You can come here, and Coinbase is going to create a new Polkadot address for me, right? It has a way for me to buy or whatever, but I don't want to buy it. I want to let's see, go to the wallet here, and yeah, so Coinbase has a Polkadot account, and let's see, say send or receive. See, if you click on receive, here's, okay, this is a little bit different. This is USDC coin, but yeah, you can just pick whichever one you want. Let's see, I was on Polkadot. So, and this is the easiest way to get started, right? It's just to do it through here. Okay, so now, so it says dot address. So this is my Polkadot address for Coinbase. And so if any of you had Polkadot, I could just copy it right here, and you know, I could paste it. I could literally paste it into chat, right? And then if you had your Coinbase app, you could click send, and you know, send it to me, right? Or right, and so and that's all there is to it. Now, if kind of the next piece of this would be if you had a wallet, and like for example, one of the wallets that I use is called Coinomi, and so you could put you can upload Coinomi to your phone. This website's really good. It actually will, yeah, see, so there's the app right there, right? So if you had, it's sort of the same thing that you just saw a second ago with Coinbase. You could actually transfer the Polkadot from yourself into this Coinomi app on your phone. When you do that, you take on more responsibility, because you have to come click over here and back up your information. And it ends up being usually a list of 12 words. And those words are the seed, right? That was used to create all of the accounts in the app. So if your phone gets destroyed or whatever, you could load Koinomi on another app, type in those 12 words, and all your money will be there. Did that kind of explain that?
Yes, yes, John.
12 words as in 12 characters?
No, it's usually like it's usually like 12 random words, like strawberry, baseball. You know, it comes up with them, right?
Okay, got it.
And just with those 12 words in that specific order, it's like there's, you know, billions of possibilities, right? So nobody else, I mean, I guess it's possible that somebody else could be given those 12 words, but that doesn't ever really happen. So
How secure are these, John? The layers of security on the blockchain?
well, again, you know, on the blockchain, everybody can see your transaction, right? Like they can see so if I send you something, it's sort of in your wallet waiting, right? And so somebody could see that and say, oh, I want to get that. But we don't have the computing power to sort of figure out the hash, right? It's a process where it's easy to go one way, right? It's easy to create a hash of some information, but it's almost impossible to go the other way, right? We don't, you know, IBM doesn't have the quantum computing power necessary to crack those codes. So it's really secure. Like I say, the thing that's going to happen that's going to screw people up is writing down writing it down on a piece of paper and losing the piece of paper, losing your wallet, something like that. Those are the big things. So, you know, when you hear about like the you know, the FBI, right? For example, the FBI got Bitcoin back. They didn't have any special technology to do that. They got the they either got the people's phones or they told the people, or you know, they arrested people and said, give me your private key. That's the same thing that happened with there was a famous dark web site called Silk Road. It's the same thing that happened with Silk Road. The FBI didn't decode people's Bitcoin addresses. They grabbed the guy and grabbed their phone and were able to get it from there. So
I have a question, follow-up question to that.
absolutely.
So if a federal agency is able to snatch somebody's phone and gain access to the funds, what about the folks who have wrong intentions?
Same thing. I mean, if they can get if they can unlock your phone. So here's what probably would happen, right? Somebody would think, aha, I'll back my keys, I'll back my private passwords up to the cloud. So then they'll put this stuff on the Google Cloud, thinking that, you know, it's going to be safe. If the house burns down, it's still on the Google Cloud. But then somebody will break into wherever they've stored it and get the keys from there. So yeah, you know, it's all about. It's just at the end of the day, it's just a really long number. It's a string of numbers and letters. But if somebody has that, then they have access, and if they don't have that, there's no way to get access. The only exception was, I was saying before, that you can have a more than one. You can have an address that more than one key can unlock. You can even have an address, it's called like a 2 of 3 or 3 of 5 or whatever, where it might take more than one person to access the funds. That's another option that might make sense for a group like this, right? Um, uh, but you know, not all three, right? So anyway.
Got it. Yeah, there are lots of complications, but I think you've done a good job to explain that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, you know, when you think about bad behavior, right? It's usually somebody has broken into a computer. They've locked the files. They've put a ransomware on, right? And then they want payment in Bitcoin, right? So that's not really the fault of Bitcoin, that it's what they choose for payment. And actually, because you can, because of the traceability, Bitcoin isn't a great option. Let's go back to here. So this shows you the Bitcoin ledger, right? Now, for like, I have the ability to read the ledger, you know, from a computer program too, right? But you can trace things back. Like this money that was in this account, if you click on that, it shows you you know where it came from, right? And you can keep, let's say maybe it was in this transaction, right? So you can keep going back all the way till when the Bitcoin was first created. You just keep clicking backwards. You can do that, and here's kind of shows, you know, different views, different transactions, and so that's what happens. So what happens is that people will try to be sneaky, and they might send that Bitcoin around to like 20 different addresses. That doesn't matter, because you can see all of those addresses, and at some point you have to get the money out of the system. And unless you can find somebody that will give you $5,000 in cash for $5,000 worth of Bitcoin, you're going to have to go to somewhere like Robinhood or Coinbase or whatever. And then at that point, it's not anonymous anymore, right? So also with the things that I'm working with, you can disclose certain information as you go, right? And I think that's going to become more prevalent, where because this stuff is kind of challenging the banks, you know, central banks are actually interested in looking at it. But as you see here, you can't make any sense of this, right? So one day, you know, I think it'll be possible to have names, you know, names associated with this, right? And if you want that to be totally public, that's a possibility. If you want it to be private with only like a group of people can see, that's another possibility too. So it's a great question, and it's all, you know, every month we're the rules are changing, and it's, you know, becoming, there's a lot to figure out still.
I have one last question.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure. So see, we understand, you know, everyone understand why do we buy stocks, like, you know, based on the company, how they are doing, and, you know, you have faith on these companies, then you go and buy some stocks, right? So someone who's getting into cryptocurrency, like, what are these major factors you look into to see, should I buy Bitcoin, should I buy Dogecoin, or should I buy, whatever, what is these criteria which you should look at it?
What criteria should you look at? Okay. So this is the investing advice question. All right. So yeah. So So if you come to there's tons of sites out there and tools that you can do all sorts of analysis as just as if this was a stock, right? Like let's see. Let's take a look at Dogecoin. So you can see the history. The problem, and then there's also other things you can understand. Like, for example, one thing you can understand about the Dogecoin is that there's a lot of what they call whales, Dogecoin whales. These are people who have a huge amount of the currency. So they can control the market because it's unregulated. They can decide to sell a bunch of Dogecoin, and that would drive the price down, right? But you have, I mean, it's just like any sort of stock. There's your candle. So let's look at the max on Dogecoin, and so it looks like it was so this is actually the price for most of the history of Dogecoin, right? So it started, it looks like, in 2014. So if you'd bought back then, of course, you'd be quite wealthy. And so probably 1 year. Let's look at 1 year, right? So yeah, so Dogecoin shot up. The thing is, how do you tell that it's going to do this again, right? I think that what you can do is diversify your portfolio, right? Have a couple different things. Don't invest things that you're not afraid to lose. And let's see what else we've got here. We can go back.
The question is, like, why the Dogecoin is so cheap and why the Bitcoin is, like, exponentially high?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question, right? Why does so Dogecoin so the reason why Bitcoin is so high is just because people will pay for it, right? The people will pay that price. Now, some argue that the price is artificially inflated again, because it's unregulated. But yeah, it just Bitcoin was the first one. It shot up, but they're almost the identical program, right? There's nothing brilliant about Bitcoin. In fact, all the others are copies of Bitcoin, so you would think the others would be better. There's one called Bitcoin Cash that you can actually put an image right into the currency. And but again, it's just what people are willing to buy. It's sort of like the NFT, right? What makes a piece of artwork worth millions of dollars? Well, because somebody paid for it. But there's usually a story behind it, so and the same with Bitcoin. If you look at the whole history, there's there, you know, it's just now the other thing is when the price of Bitcoin goes up, you have more miners, right? It becomes more competitive because the way this works, it's based on something called proof of work, and proof of work rewards the one with the most computational power. That's why you end up spending so much energy on Bitcoin, right? It's this competition. So I see somebody else has their hand up.
Yeah, hi.
Matt,
This is Madhuri. Yes, this is Madhuri, and thank you, John, and also thanks to Rotary Club of Silicon Andhra for bringing this topic. It's very interesting. I'm completely new, and I just have a question on. I know that you're just talking about how the different varieties of drip coins and this, different prices, but normally as an investor, normally when you want to first time when you are into investing and trading stocks and stuff like that, when you're first time getting into this cryptocurrency, when you're trying to invest, and how do you do the research basically on each and every, although you showed some, but we generally have Morningstar and certain things to look at.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so traditionally you have like Warren Buffett, right? This is the exact opposite of the world of Warren Buffett, where he says, I've looked at the fundamentals of this company and it makes sense. You know, steel is going to go up. I foresee all this. Nothing like that applies here because even if some currency says they are focused on curing brain cancer or whatever, at the end of the day, it's just what people are willing to pay for. That's all there is. And I've looked at, I mean, I showed you a little snippet of the source code before. I've looked through it, I understand how it works, and they're all almost the same. So it's almost like, I would say, don't think of them like stocks or commodities. Think of them like think of them like currencies, right? Like you could say, why is the dollar the price that it is? And now having said that, one thing you can tell is how many there will be. Because and that's pretty important, right? Because like with the dollar, you can keep creating as many dollars as you want, right? But with these, that's not the case. So let's look at this currency that I kind of play around with. If you can just type in some, let's say, some number, and look at a transaction. So that'll show me a transaction here. If it comes up, it might be kind of sluggish. So when Bitcoin first started, yeah, it looks like it's not gonna. When Bitcoin when Bitcoin first started out, the miners would get 50 Bitcoin as a reward, right? And that was almost worth nothing, right? You hear a story about somebody that bought a pizza with like 200 Bitcoin or something like that. So today, you don't have a single individual mining the currency. And when I say mining, people sometimes think that it's like gold or something, but it's there's and they think, well, you're going to run out of gold at one point, so you're going to run out of Bitcoin, and it must be harder to mine as you go. it's only gets harder to mine the more people that participate, right?
Mm-hmm.
If less people participate, then it becomes easier to mine. But what happens, they have something called the halving, the half, H-A-W-H-A-L-F.
Mm-hmm.
And have you heard of the halving?
No.
No,
I'm pretty
okay.
new to this. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that happens periodically, and it's laid out in the program where the reward given to the miners is cut in half. It happened a few months ago. So it started out at 50, and now I think it's like 7.5 or something like that. So every few years, or every certain number of blocks, the reward will get cut in half. And eventually there'll be no reward. And that's the only way that new Bitcoins come into the system, is through this reward. So that's how you can say there will only be so many Bitcoin in the world. And that creates the scarcity. The same with the other currencies, right? Same with Ethereum or Litecoin or Dogecoin.
Right. One more. I think I'm pretty completely new to this. So there are so many that you're showing in Coinbase, the different varieties of the Bitcoins. And as an individual investor, how do you differentiate, and how do you decide, I think, between which one to go with? And because it's completely, it's not easy to figure out as an investor.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's trends, right? There's trends. When it goes up, when it goes way up and everybody gets excited, that's probably not the time. You're told that Bitcoin will just keep rising forever, right? And it's going to be worth $1 million. One Bitcoin will be $1 million or something, whatever. So it's if you look, I mean, there's patterns, right? It's gonna get pumped. Watch for Elon Musk's tweets. That's exactly right. Elon Musk, if he tweets something, it will make the price of Dogecoin go up if he tweets about it. So he drives the price.
So it's pretty
yes.
volatile then.
Yeah. Some of these, like I say, this is, I don't advocate investing a lot in these. I'm more interested in other uses, and there's like a whole other. There's like, for example, the world of blockchain that's used in for businesses, right? Where you might hear about like your track and trace or farm to fork, where you can tell instead of being about money, it's about food, right? You can tell if pesticides were used on your lettuce, or if an outbreak.
Yeah, for instance, I think they've used blockchain in a few countries to track COVID medicines.
Absolutely.
To ensure there's no counterfeiting drugs entering into the market.
Yeah. And in those cases, there's nobody that's like, there's nobody that's pumping the lettuce market up or down, right? But yeah, it's very risky. And the price is going to come down as people sell. So, it's buy low. I would dollar cost average, and get different things. So yeah.
So it's something like demand driven without any tangible assets attached to it, right? Like stocks. Some stocks go up if somebody not necessarily that the company is doing great, but something happens around the world, some of the stocks go up because more people are buying it. So it's like not really like stocks, but at the same time it is more demand driven. When people are buying it, it goes up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But that doesn't happen forever,
Right.
Because that's the definition of a Ponzi scheme, right? Is that
exactly
forever. But right now a lot of people are getting interested in. I guess my frustration is, what I want to see is for people to actually use cryptocurrencies as money, where and that's really hard because, if it's not easy enough, if it's not easier than credit cards, then it's not going to happen. And how do you make that jump? But I think there's great potential there for, or is, like we're kind of exploring things like maybe gift cards or, a credit system, a reward system. People use this stuff in games, like game tokens. So let's see. So Maduri.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think pretty much answered. I'm just wondering if it is not regulated, then how do we even feel comfortable, especially the non-profit organizations or businesses? Are they really feel comfortable to even invest?
Well, I mean, so if you're a nonprofit, are you really investing, right? Because you can accept Bitcoin, but you need to, and these are great questions. There are a wealth of business models here. Like, for example, I create services where where I could host a Bitcoin account for you, or some account. So if somebody sends me something, we could move it into a stable currency so that the price doesn't go down before you even get a chance to use it. But really, you're going to want to, even if you accept cryptocurrency, you're going to want to turn it into something stable. And
True.
and that's the problem. I mean, if you set out for a night on the town and you want to use currency for something, and the market goes up unexpectedly, and it could be very strange, right? So so I think the answer is that as soon as you get it, you have to convert it to something else, and there's services to kind of help you do that.
Yeah, it might be. I have one more question, the last one. It might be a dumb question, but I still would like to ask.
Oh, sure.
It's generally, you said you can invest in cents. I mean, just like in DRIP, if you dividend reinvestment program, you do invest in cents. So is it very similar in this, or, I mean?
Well, yeah, like I was saying, just however much you want to invest, you can. The fees are pretty low. It's let's see. Let me share my screen again. Let's see. I don't happen to have any money in Coinbase, but let's say I want to buy. Let's just pretend I want to buy 500. 500. So I'm going to buy 500 Bitcoin on Coinbase. My fee is $7.34. And you can just sit here and look at that, right? For whatever. And then there's to sell. I don't, you can sell whatever you want. And it gets interesting because, of course, you don't have to buy Bitcoin from Coinbase. If you know somebody that has some, they can.
Gotcha. Okay.
They can, give it to you. But let's see another example. Let's look at Tether, right? That might be more. So let's do $500 in Tether. See, same thing, $7.34. But if you buy $10, the fee is 99 cents. So it's on a, and that's whatever Coinbase wants to offer, right? Once with the exception of Bitcoin and Ethereum, the transaction fees are very low. It's just those initial fees to you know, to purchase it, right? Let's see. I think I'd moved most of my money out of here, so I don't really have a lot to show you with. But so you can but you can invest any amount that you want, and I would say that if you do a small amount like $50 or whatever, then you'll watch it. You'll start watching it, and you'll see. You'll go through that process, right? It's you know, it's just like investing in anything, right? You have an idea, and it's emotional. It can be an emotional process, but again, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't know. I just
Oh yeah, that's
Got it.
So John,
Thank
you
you,
can
John.
buy.
You
You
probably
can
know
buy.
10 times more about that than I do. So,
So John, for I think Madhuri, you can buy and sell in Robinhood for free. There's no service charge or anything will be charged.
oh, really?
If
That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
Oh, yeah. That's the only platform which will allow you to sell for no brokerage or no taxes. Yeah.
That's good. Well,
Thank you. Yeah.
I'll have to check that out. You know, like I have a certain amount that I use for my, you know, my work, right? To try to kind of figure out how to, you
Okay.
know, I'm about data, right? I'm about like so I never buy the stuff, right? Because it, you know, I'm not spending it. I'm spending a tiny little amount. Let me try to show you something else here that's completely different.
John, you're also talking to another data guy. Even Kishore is from data background.
What did you say?
Even Kishore is from data background. You're also talking to another data guy.
Ah, okay. So
Yeah.
this is, so let's go yeah, back here. So this is a project I worked on a while back, and in this currency, and this is actually a different version of Bitcoin. It's called Bitcoin SV, and it's promoted by this guy named Craig Wright, who I don't know if any of you have heard of him. He's Australian, and he says that he is Satoshi Nakamoto. There he is right there. But you'll notice that this is a bunch of pictures and images and stuff. And these are all images that people have put into the transactions themselves. So this is I have to be a bit careful, you know, showing you this, because it's just as Bitcoin is completely unregulated, whatever these images are is also, it's also completely unregulated. You know, if you have the proper software, you can put a picture of yourself into, I would say, the memo field of a Satoshi Vision transaction. And just to kind of show you, going from my site where I grab the images, here's another site that has the images in here. So for the techie people, you know, all of this data right here, all of this that you see, all these numbers are in the transaction itself, can never be removed, because that's the number one rule of blockchain, right? It's a chain of blocks. None of the blocks can ever change, or it's sort of like the matrix where you get spit out. So let's see if it can decode this one. Sometimes it can, sometimes it can't.
I think, John, we are kind of out of time.
Out of time, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, yeah. So it was able to decode that picture. So this is just a random picture that somebody took and put into their thing. But yeah, it's like I say, this goes on forever. So
Yeah, we can have one more session too.
Yeah.
Based on the time and availability, we'll try to have one more. Definitely, this is very interesting one, and really appreciate coming forward and educating us. So thank you, and Madam Priya Garu, please take over.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, John, for such a wonderful session. You've been
Oh, you're
educating us
welcome.
on such an important and evolving topic.
Yeah.
Cryptocurrencies, my God, I mean, that name itself sounded so difficult, but now you made that easy and understandable. Thanks to you.
I hope
And
you did.
yeah,
I never know if people are just like, what's he talking about?
yeah. No, but you made it really smooth. And that's exactly what our Rotary Club is all about. We want to not only serve the community, but also enrich and educate them with such wonderful sessions and, things happening around us, and especially with cryptocurrencies. This is the need of the hour for everybody to educate themselves. And thank you for, kickstarting this great process and starting the vocational services with a big bang of cryptocurrency and bitcoins. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Priya Garu. So I'll stop recording here. Thank you all. Have a good evening and have a rest of the day. Good day. Thank you.